Welcome to another episode of the Waffle Shop podcast. Today I'm joined by one of the very few people that have actually welcomed back to the podcast. So I'm very, very excited that she's agreed to come and have a waffle with me in the studio. It's actress, author, and Guide Dogs ambassador, Jess Impiazzi.
Hi, Taylor. Thank you so much for having me back.
Welcome back.
I'm so happy to be, honestly, last time we had a chat, I always come out feeling like, oh, yeah. And so when you said, would I come back? I was like, 100%. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so surreal. It really is. Because I think the first time we were saying it before we hit the record button, we first met at a panel event that we both did for The Brilliant Holly. But then we recorded again, but it was in like lockdown situations, so over Zoom.
Yeah.
So now to kind of be in this position, in a studio, yeah.
I was just saying how awesome it is to see your growth and like how amazing this is. And I just feel like I've loved watching it, and it's so exciting that I'm here again. I'm so excited.
Stop it. Stop it. I told you, we're not doing this. There will be tears in this episode. To be fair, this all sounds really nice and we're catching up and stuff like that, but I do start each one of my shows with something called the Weekly Waffle, which is quite frankly something that's got on my nerves. And once I speak about it, it makes me feel better. So obviously feel free to get involved. But what's really, really got on my nerves this week, I mean, it's Monday, is every single person who went to Glastonbury.
That's all I'm seeing everywhere. Do you know what? I'm not a festivals person. I don't like big crowds. I hate it. As much as I've been in, TV and kind of that environment, out of it, I don't like big crowds. I don't like groups of people. I like isolation, one-on-one conversations. So for me, I'm like, all go to Glastonbury and I'm good.
Yeah, okay. So it's your idea of how.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's FOMO. It's FOMO. Like it's obviously it's very difficult to get tickets. And I went last year and it was almost like perfect. And I was like, I'm not really bothered about it this year. And then seeing it on TV, I'm like,
but to console you a little bit, I have seen on the news today that they're having terrible sound problems.
To be fair, I've seen a few of the sets. So yeah. Maybe it was for the best.
Exactly.
And to be fair, if I did go, I wouldn't be in a position to be sat here having this conversation. So negatives to positives. Is there anything that gets on your nerves that you'd like to get off your chest?
I try not to let things, but there is one pathetic thing. So like, there's a lot of things that could absolutely send me into mental breakdown half the time. But I just like, do you know what? What will be, will be. But today, on the way up here, I had to pee like 3 times at garages and it was driving me crazy. And the dilly-dalliers in front of me, I was like, I'm going to wet myself. And I realised I am not a fan of dilly-dallying. I don't like dilly-dalliers. You've got somebody to go get there.
No, I do. I agree. So there's 2 things there. So obviously bladders.
Bladders.
Right there. Yep. Right off straight away. But it's dilly-dalliers, slow walkers. I found out recently that I've become a bit of a tutter. So I don't know if it's an age thing that I'm like, oh. And it's just like, it's so dramatic, isn't it? Just like, oh, move. So I get it. You've got places to go.
I was trying to wiggle past the people and then I'll get stuck by another one. I was like, guys, I don't think you realise the severity right now.
Yeah. Move.
But I got there, I made it, so don't panic anyway. I didn't wet myself.
That's what we like.
And I'll be moaning about that, wouldn't I? So.
When we first caught up, it was like a very nice panel. We were all talking about all things like mental health and taking care of yourself. And it's fair to say that you've had quite the time of it.
Since I last saw you.
Yes. So things have changed quite dramatically. You've been through the mill a little bit, which kind of made today's topic, if you like, a bit more powerful, because today we're going to be talking a bit about stress and how we kind of manage it. But I kind of want to ask you, like, how are you, first and foremost?
If you'd have asked me this in January, it'd be a different answer. But we're now, I don't even know what month it is.
1st of July.
With 1st of July. And things are a lot better. I think, just a lot went on. 2023 sucked. But there was, I'd had fertility problems, which I thought I was originally told was an early menopause. But I knew something wasn't right with my body. So my menstrual cycle had gone a bit strange. So first port of call was to go to a gynecologist who then said, oh, you're going to go through early menopause. So I had a mental breakdown nearly, because I'm like childbearing years. I'm 35 now.
Yeah.
And I really started to panic. So this is when I was like 32, this happened, 33. And I remember coming out of that clinic I had no idea anything was wrong. And then I just thought I would check. And that was my results. And they said my AMH level, which is what determines how many eggs you have left in your body, was that of like someone in their 50s. So it was nearly gone through menopause. And I was like, but I'm still getting periods. I'm still ovulating. And I didn't really understand it. So then I went straight in with IVF with my now ex-partner. And that was very much, I was getting out credit cards. I was just like, this is a expensive thing. I've got to do this by myself. All of my ex-partner stuff was going on behind the scenes that I'm trying to fix for him. And it was just a lot. Went through the IVF, which failed. And I had a massive stressor during that time as well, which was really unhelpful. And then I literally after that, when the IVF failed, within 2 weeks, I got sicker and sicker and sicker. And I mean, every system in my body started to go. Couldn't move any of my joints. My eye sockets were swelled up. My hair fell out. 60% of my hair fell out. I've got extensions in now because I've got like bald patches and stuff. It's not so bad. It started to grow back, but it's actually having a bit of a moment right now where it's coming out again. But I think it's a cycle of it. And so all these things are happening. I couldn't eat because I would get so much pain going down my whole torso. And I just didn't know what was wrong. And I was doing trips to A&E. I would have to be picked up off the bed to go to the toilet. It was just, I thought I was dying. I genuinely thought I've gone from doing 5K every morning. And that was always my coping. I'd had a really tough childhood, very chaotic and troublesome childhood. And the way I got out of that and into the new way of living and this positive place was by making sure I kept my physical health up, because that always gave me the endorphins, and I had the power that day to keep going. So I started my day off with that and I could keep going. But now suddenly that's ripped away from me. So all my coping mechanisms that I'd built for years, gone, because I couldn't physically get out of bed. So I kept going into A&E, and there was one time my stepdad took me to hospital in the evening because it was bad. And, Google's not your friend at that point. So there was
you could do in that time.
I was looking, and lucky I've got a friend that's a doctor, and I'd had rashes all over my body, all over my face. I started to look like Quasimodo. Everything was swelling up. And I was Googling it, and it did say things like, multiple autoimmune disorders and 5 years life expectancy and all this. So I'm like, get me to the hospital now. I was pretty quickly diagnosed with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease. Yeah. So all my immune system is attacking all my healthy cells, which is why all these different things are happening. But it's normally quite hard to diagnose. But I think the stresses from all the things that had gone on in that year made it come on very, very quick. Because it can be genetic, but no one in my family has it. But it's also environment. And my environment for the year and a half was high chaos, high stress, and me trying to fix everything around me and everyone around me. And I just didn't look after myself. And I thought that was me being a superpower. And my mindset was always, you've got to make sure no one ever feels how you did when you were like late teens in your 20s. You don't want anyone to feel that sad. So all your effort goes into that. But what I didn't realise is I've lost all my boundaries by that point. And then I forgot to give a crap about myself and how I'm feeling. And it just accumulated until the lupus diagnosis. So I personally think that was brought on by a lot of stress, and then I had an operation and my body just could not take another thing. Wow. And with all the hormones from IVF, like my body went through the mill. Everything at once. And my dad had died just the year previously. So it was just one thing after the other from about July 2022 up until January this year. It was just, I don't know how I carried on. Yeah. I do think when you can come out of that, because it's almost like when you've got that level of chaos and trauma going on all at once, it's not coming from all angles, you're in a bubble, you've just got to fight. And that's what I was doing. It was just getting through the day, keep going. And I think I can thrive in chaos in a way, because that's what I grew up with. And I was, but not in a healthy way. Yeah. It wasn't thriving like, I'm doing well. It was thriving as in like, I'm clinging on by like you're climbing up a rope and you're holding yourself up, and you've got to keep going, because if you don't, you'll drop all the way to your death, sort of thing. But now I've managed to calm it. I've found new techniques, new ways to kind of settle things that I think without the lupus diagnosis I never would have learned. Yeah. So like,
it was almost like a reminder, wasn't it? Like, I hate this kind of conversation because, well, no, I don't. It's a powerful conversation to have, but it's almost like, and I don't know whether it's a religion thing, a universe thing, but it's like you will be sent a lesson continuously until you learn from that lesson. And I don't want to say lupus was the lesson, but it was almost like a bit of an eye opener to be like, okay, I need to take this serious. And you said something beautiful, and I'm so glad you said it again, because you said it before we recorded, and I was going to ask you about it, was that you've spent such a huge portion of your life giving and giving and giving that you almost do lose yourself. And it's something that I really relate to. And I think that's why I kind of connected with you very early on. But when you are in that kind of layer of chaos or in that storm, you automatically ignore everything, every boundary, every inch of kind of like self-care to find a way of giving to someone else.
Yeah, and I think the problem with that is, and I don't know if I speak for everyone that kind of does that, but it became my value of being on earth was to completely help other people. So therefore I lost all value in myself.
Yeah.
And it took all of that to really figure that out. And as much as I think a few years ago I was on the right track with things, that was one lesson that needed to hit me with a pole around the head, and it did. And the lupus made me slow down. It made me, I had to look after myself. I had to look after what I'm eating. I had to look after my mind, because if I didn't, I was just going to spiral and spiral and spiral, like physically and mentally. And I made some quite big decisions in December, and to the point where I nearly lost my home. I nearly lost everything, because I had to suddenly do everything by myself on top of being chronically ill. I'm still in that position, but I'm working on me, and I'm giving all that love to me, which I've never ever done. Like, I grew up with, my mum was blind, my dad was an alcoholic, my dad's now dead. Like, I've only learned from a young age that my value is by what I can give. So I'm realizing my value is me as a person. I don't need to give everything to everyone and drain myself to be valued as a person. I am a good person. I don't need that validation. And it took all this and bloody lupus
to remind you of that,
to give me that
even
lesson.
show you that, because it's a very powerful position, and you almost kind of, I don't know, you kind of look back, and I don't want to say the word like resentment and stuff, but you look back and like with a certain level of resentment to past situations, people, relationships, jobs, when it comes to this realization of it, and be like, why did I wait that long? Why did I wait for that, almost that rock bottom?
Yeah.
Obviously, I know with lupus, you can't obviously control when obviously that kicks in.
Yeah.
But almost like we always seem to wait for a traumatic event or something life-changing to make that jump into prioritizing ourselves. And I think there is still that layer of all that stigma around being selfish for prioritizing yourself. And like, I think that with two people sat here, like, it is not selfish. You need to self-care. You need to prioritize your own needs, your own priorities, like your own boundaries to be able to function. You are literally like a walking ray of sunshine when it comes to this, because it's like, I know there was a lot there and a lot to kind of like unpack, but you're still finding the positives. You're still kind of giving yourself that like, but this is what I've learned. And I think, Jess, it's one of the most beautiful qualities that a person can have, that you can find the good in the negative.
And I think you kind of have to, because as much as it's not been very nice, to say the least, if I didn't find a reason for it, and I think I've always been like this, if I can't find a reason for something of happening that I can maybe transform into something better, then there was no point in it. And if there's no point in it, I lose a bit of any kind of vision of what life's about, and I probably go into an existential crisis. Like, I know bad things just happen for no reason, but if you can take something out of it, then I think you can learn. Like, for instance, when I was diagnosed, the healthcare system's quite difficult because it's overrun as it is. So it's kind of, you see your doctor, you get referred to the rheumatologist, he sees you, puts you on steroids, come back in 3 months. Nothing's changed. Okay, try this. I'm on 3 different medications at the moment.
Wow.
Just for the first time starting to come off the steroids, because I've been put on a new medication that's really, really strong. And that all has side effects, and I've got to deal with that. But I thought, this isn't enough. This really isn't enough. I'm developing something at the moment for people with autoimmune diseases, and I'm in the middle stages of it, but I'm working so hard on it. And maybe that was my purpose. Maybe, the acting is all I've ever wanted to do, but that comes with its own stress because
Yeah.
I'm not working all the time. I may have like a big, I mean, I got Strike on the BBC and I thought this is it. And then I got diagnosed with lupus, couldn't work. So that, maybe that was my path changing to have that. I can still love doing that, but maybe I have been given this as a gift almost. I won't I'm not going to say it's lovely things. It's certainly not the gift I'd want, but to bring something else in that I found that I would have needed when I first got diagnosed. So I'm trying to develop that with a couple of people now and some tech teams, because tech isn't my forte, but the idea, I've got all that and I can write it all down. But
can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
This all sounds incredible, but are you falling into a same trap of trying to...
Yeah, I just hear that now. Heard that now. Trying to help people. I think as much as it's trying to help others, I think it helps me, because I'm learning so much about my own illness, which is making me get better. Like, I'm learning so much about nutrition. I'm learning so much about sleep. A lot of autoimmune starts in the gut. Now, my first symptom was I couldn't eat. I was throwing up anything I ate because I was in so much pain. Well, I've always had tummy issues because the trauma as a child. There is now that connection between the vagus nerve and the stomach. So the gut and mind is actually connected.
Yeah.
And that is a science fact now. So if that's connected and one of them's out of sync, something's going to go wrong. So if you're in a constant state of stress, that's why you get IBS. But we all know that when there's stress, your stomach goes. When you walk into a room or you're somewhere, you feel it in your gut if there's danger around. I don't know anyone that hasn't said, "Oh, I had a gut reaction that I should get out of there." And as a woman, especially, when I've gone to get in an elevator, for instance, and there's a dodgy bloke in there, and my gut tells me something, and I don't get in the elevator or go through a certain alleyway, your gut always tells you, and it's because there's the connection. And finally, science has got to that stage, and I think we see our mind and our body as two separate entities, and I don't believe that they are. I think they're very much connected, and this is what I've learned so much through my autoimmune disease, is that if stress can literally trigger your autoimmune, your immune system to turn on itself. Stress. And we're living in such a stressful society because everything we have to live is a construct. Everything we actually, if we had a completely different system put in place from day dot, and we paid for things with our tapping our toes on something, that would be the norm. It's just, it would be the norm, but it's this monetary thing and it's this consumerism and this greed that has made everyone struggle. The fruit grows, if we don't touch anything, the earth would be thriving and we'd all be living off the land, But that's not life, and I can't live in this bubble that I'm going to go and join a commune or something. So you have to, in some way keep on the same planet as everyone else. But we live in nothing but stress. We're told you've got to work all these hours to earn not enough money to pay all these bills that are going up and up and up. And you're wondering why there's more autoimmune diseases. We're wondering why there's more depression. We've got phones that are triggering our brains so much compared to when we were kids, when we didn't have mobile phones. There's higher diagnosis of ADHD because we're not learning or teaching our kids to focus, because you can't switch off. It's very difficult to find someone now that says, "Oh yeah, I can just sit on my own with a book." People can't do it because they need constant stimulation. Like, I'm very strict with my phone, and when I go off, I really notice the difference. If I wake up and have an early call, my days I really have to go out for that hour walk and not touch my phone, because it's almost like, I heard someone talking about the other day, the popcorn brain. So it's like going pop, 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 pop. You can't switch these neurons off that are all transmitting because we're so used to this stimuli all the time that it's taken over. It's like we're on a constant slot machine getting the fix of adrenaline, whatever it is.
You make a really good point, and it's actually something that I wrote down on my cards about this, almost like becoming like a badge of honor. We're looking up to these people, like these like influencers who are running at 100 miles an hour constantly, and it's like there's a problem if you're not doing that. And it's one thing that I did want to talk to you about, because it was about almost being addicted to stress. And it's something that when I saw it, I was like, this is a little bit too close to the home, this. And it's like, we're kind of in a generation where we're addicted to stress, we're being addicted or becoming addicted to being busy and running at 100 miles an hour. And when I read it, I had to read it like 2-3 times, because it was like, I'm far more addicted to stress than I am being addicted to looking after myself. And when I kind of like had that realization myself, and then I was looking through like a group chat that I've got like with a few friends, and I was like, we're all doing it. We're all saying like, we're too busy to meet up at this time. We're too busy to meet up that one. Like, oh, this is stressful. Work's stressful. That relationship's stressful. And it's like, but none of us are doing anything about it. It's almost like it's good to be stressed because then it gives us something to talk about.
Yeah.
But actually, what I love about this podcast and conversations like this is that we get to sit down for like 30, 40 minutes, however long this conversation is going to go on for. We're not checking our phones. We're talking about these things that have got us through those really stressful times.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, something needs to change because it shouldn't be taking like diagnoses or kind of like mental breakdowns to get to a point where we need to start taking this seriously. We need to actually address the fact that we are incredibly unhealthy. And I'm not saying that because I'm pointing the finger. I'm saying it because I am that person. Like the past 2 weeks, I've been so unhealthy with my food. And it's only really been like now, like well, I'm taking it seriously. I'm looking back. And immediately it's like I'm in such a better headspace. And I'm performing better. Like I'm just having better conversations because I'm prioritizing self-care, like working out and like prioritizing or being mindful of what's going into my body and what's coming out of it. So not coming out of it, like
I know what you mean. Yeah. What goes in comes
like
out.
Gillian McKee.
Well, I don't know too much about that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But I do know that from the research I've been delving into, medical papers, is that food is our medicine. And, you know, most of the things we're eating is actually poisoning us slowly. It's approved because if in little dosages, it's not causing, you know, major health issues. But over years of eating, you know, these processed foods, these are all chemicals. And if you're already like me with an autoimmune disease, you can't be having these extra chemicals because it's making things a lot worse. So I've been really experimenting with food. And one thing I've learned now is if I look at an ingredient and there's something in it that I don't understand, or you have to Google it and it turns out to be a chemical, I'm not going to eat it. And this is quite more recent. This is in the last 2 weeks, and I've noticed a massive difference in my lupus activity. I think there's a few more other elements to it, but if I get the food right, you've got to think of it. Everything you're eating becomes part of you. It comes out or it becomes part of you. So if you're having, say, something that's a constant processed food, that's becoming a part of your, you know, your makeup and your gut microbes, whatever they are. You're either feeding the good ones or you're feeding the bad ones. And if you're constantly feeding the bad ones, that's when you end up with like leaky gut. You can end up with autoimmune diseases. And we're sold it as normal, and we're sold it in this fast-paced society because everyone's just trying to make money. But a lot of these things really aren't good for you. And I'm doing so much more looking into this. I only know the top layer of this at the moment. But from my understanding and these medical papers I'm reading, it's just we are, you know, fueling ourselves with bad fuel. And it's...
Well, you said it earlier about like your environment and like that kind of like that chaos. So if anything, it's exactly the same. Like if you're in an environment that isn't serving you or is quite toxic, you're going to start to pick up on certain traits or you're going to become very unhappy. But then your body's the same. If you're constantly putting in like bad stuff, you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel sluggish. You're going to, you know, all those negatives. And then it could lead to like further health benefits, negatives. And obviously I'm no expert. And obviously wasn't where I was expecting the conversation to go, but it's so important to talk about that. I don't think people are actually really recognizing that.
Yeah, well, it's the same as if you sat with someone day in, day out for 6 hours a day and you were complaining and moaning and, you know, being nasty about other people, being nasty about yourself. By a week's time, you're going to be in a dark place. Same as if you do it with your body, wherever you're putting in that. So the input of the brain is no different to the input of the gut. You've got to be looking after it and finding what fixes what bit. And that's been really helpful for me to learn, and hopefully I can share that soon when I keep this development going. But it is, you know, it's something that we all need to look into more, I think, because I think we're all losing a lot of trust in society, in governments, in what we're told is safe and what isn't safe. I think COVID ramped that up quickly because we didn't know what was safe, what wasn't safe. We didn't trust the government.
We were sold a bit of a lie.
We were sold lies. We were sold lies of Brexit, all these different things. And I think that can be quite a dangerous place in society when there's no trust in government. I'm going off on one here, but you know, we're in a crunch time at the minute where we're unable to trust people, and that is a dangerous place to be.
Yeah. This might be a big question. You don't have to answer it at all, but with everything that's kind of gone on throughout your life, and especially in the past kind of couple of years, on the topic of trust, do you trust yourself now to be able to, because obviously you've got the portfolio and this kind of like this big stack of facts now to say that you can go through anything and walk through the other side with a smile on your face. It will take a time.
Yeah.
But do you trust yourself now?
I'm learning to. I think that the thing that I have learned mainly from all the things that have happened, the people that have betrayed me, the people that have hurt me, from all of that, I've learned I never trusted my gut. There was so many times in so many different situations with so many different people, I knew this person was not good for me or good to be around, or it would just be a feeling, and I'd ignore it every time because I was like, no, you're being crazy. You're not crazy. If your gut's telling you something, you go with it. And again, that's what I've learned from it. I've learned to trust myself more. I've started actually dating someone new recently, and I found I gave myself this promise: if I wasn't able to speak, if I felt worried about something, and that could be even if it is because of my past, relationships or whatever that's been not very nice or I haven't been able to trust, I'm allowed to speak that. And if they're a good person, they'll reassure me. I've always been too scared to speak it because I don't want anyone to think, oh, she's bringing trauma into this or she's bringing that. So I suppressed everything. So anything I've ever found, I will speak up straight away. And even if my hands are trembling, my voice is shaking, I will do that, to the point where I then learned trust in myself, which then made me trust the right people. Because the minute that gut comes up again, I'm out. Because I know I can do it by myself now. I don't need someone to love me to be part of this earth. I always felt like I had to have a boyfriend. I had to, and I've been 6 months, 7 months out of a long relationship and just starting to see something new. But in that time, it wasn't time just to sit and cry. It was time to write. You've got to make sure you are always okay. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to give you cuddles at nighttime, tell you you're a princess. No, you've got to do it for yourself. And I did. And I would do things like now, when I was living on my, well, I'm living on my own, but when I first started living on my own at the beginning of the year, I'd never cooked dinner for myself. And I realised the only reason I did that and these nice healthy meals was when I had a partner, and I'd do these beautiful dinners, candlelit. I love doing that. Yeah. I love taking care of people. I accept that as a part of me. I do love doing that, but I've got to find the balance to myself and others. But recently, I'd say in the last 3 months, I've when I cook a proper meal from scratch for myself, and I light the candle. I was like, oh, that's a nice feeling. I've done it for myself. And then I'll have my face mask and my bath. And where I used to just dismiss myself. I was on my own. I was like, who cares? I'll just put your pajamas on and go to bed and order a Deliveroo. But now I'm doing this. Things are really changing into my own trust for me and what I deserve.
100%. Just like I know you from like a distance, but like that when I first met you, like the way you were speaking was obviously so articulate, and like obviously you're very open and honest with like your journey. But there was that layer of like that voice there, and you said something before we hit the record button again about like finding your voice. And obviously for someone who is an actress, and obviously sometimes you're playing a character and obviously having to develop a voice for someone else for this character, like I imagine it's quite like a difficult thing to lose your own and then kind of like, well, actually, what does Jess sound like? What does Jess want? And it's so incredible to hear that you're at a position now to be like, I'm going to date myself. I'm going to date myself. I'm going to make myself a meal. Because it's like, it's those things that I think really do make or break your day. And if there's something at the end of the day that just put a smile on your face that you have done, like, I think it makes you invincible. I think that's a superpower, being comfortable with yourself and in your own skin, especially when you've had years of doctors saying you're not going to do this, you're not going to be able to do that, and then obviously your body trying to shut down and stuff, to now feel like, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but like Jess is in control.
Yeah, I do feel like that for the first time. Like I've got myself together, and I've still got all the everyday problems that I had before. I'm still really struggling with knowing what's going on in my fertility. Will I ever have a family? And I know I want to. I still struggle with work, like everyone is. Like we're all trying to get, work coming. It's just how it is. And I've kind of got to the stage, like what will be, will be. I can't do anything for the outcome apart from what I'm doing. And I can get myself in a pickle sometimes. But if you have, not saying this is happening now, but if you have to sell your house and get the equity out, you do that. You go on to the next thing. There's always a way. And I think we get so caught up in holding on to something that sometimes we can't change. And no matter what, we can worry about something for months. And I caught myself doing it the other week when I was panicking about my fertility, because that's all over the place still. I don't know really what's going on. I've got a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I'll let you know.
You can have part 2.
But it's just, I can't change that. So I can sit for the next 24 hours and be in my head like I was, or I can go out for a walk. I can calm my nervous system, put a podcast in, and that's what I do. And then I'm just thankful I can get out for a walk. I couldn't do that last year. I couldn't just get up and go for a walk. I did panto at Christmas and was in A&E for 2 nights, and I had to get up, go straight to panto. I was taking tramadol, getting on stage with the cast pushing me around the stage, trying to get me on to get past everything. And
it wasn't exactly like you were like playing a small part.
No, I was on stage like the whole time. I think there's like 2 scenes where I wasn't, and I thought, oh goodness me.
I don't know whether this is like sheer stupidity or just like sheer resilience, but like it just kind of gives you that reassurance that you can do it. Like you're far more than enough, and it's honestly, I think you're one of the most powerful people that I've had like to waffle with.
Well, I appreciate that, because I suppose in the midst of it, you don't feel like it. But I tell you one thing I have really learned is that old me before illness, if something was going on that wasn't great, I would isolate from everyone because I don't want to be a burden. Over Christmas, when things are difficult, I was up in Stratford-upon-Avon doing the panto, and I had girlfriends around me. One of them was Holly, one of them was my friend Kaylee, and the other cast members. And I had to be with them every day. And I was telling them what was going on, which I normally wouldn't do. And without them, I don't know if I'd have survived. And for the first time, I realised the importance of good people around you. So anyone bad got shut out very quickly after that. And these people that were around me, that were my support system, I've never known anything like it. Because, my mum's blind. My dad was an alcoholic for many years, so I didn't go to him for anything. They weren't together either, so it was just like almost like a carer relationship between me and my dad. But I don't want to burden my mum with anything else because she's blind. Certainly couldn't burden dad because near the end he didn't know what was going on. So I always kept it in. And I think keeping things in, you end up boiling over. It's like that pot, the boiling pot, and it just pops. And unfortunately, I think I was so strong mentally. I'd have my meltdowns, don't get me wrong, but I always got through everything.
Almost too strong.
Yeah, that my body went, no, we're not doing this anymore. Bump, here's lupus. And that's what I genuinely believe. I think it just had too much. And I was still going. And then, with that amount of cortisol flushing through my body, morning, noon and night, there was a point last May where I was waking up with heart palpitations. I was going to sleep with heart palpitations. It was just chronic.
You're a ticking time bomb.
I was. There's no, I grew up with domestic violence. I grew up in a really chaotic household. It wasn't my mum and dad. They weren't together. I don't remember them being together, but, different partners of my mum, etc. And I think my body just, for 35 years, or not that long, I say 30 years, it had nothing but cortisol flushing through. So I had growing issues when I was a kid. I had to go on estrogen tablets when I was a child because my body didn't develop. But now I'm looking to research that actually that level of cortisol will stunt development. Yeah. So, of course. And there was a time when I thought I might have been autistic. There was recently a time where I think I might be on the spectrum because there was a lot of things that I was noticing about myself. The groups scenarios, I don't like being in groups. I don't know if that's just a protection thing, but there's lots of things I struggle with. And I don't know necessarily if it is that. I'm not going to bother going to get checked, but I do know that whether it is that or whether it's to do with stunted development, when you're growing up in that level of chaos, I can't function like other people. I couldn't go to school and learn because I was too stressed from what happened the night before at home. I was too scared of the teacher judging whether he was angry, so that whether I'm safe. I pick up things now from that. And again, this can be a blessing because I know if there's danger, I feel uncomfortable around someone, I know it straight away. I've never taken that into consideration with relationships because I take it too far and try and love them into being a good person. But in social situations, I do struggle to be out in public because I'm always searching for the danger.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's been really, really helpful. It saved me from a lot of things.
But I also think there's a layer of anxiety there. There's a lot of stuff that I can really relate to. Like I grew up in a similar household. Like I grew up around domestic violence and this almost chaos. Like basically my parents were kids who had kids. They were still growing up. They did the best that they could with the tools that they had at the time. But it does it, and I think that's where a lot of my anxiety comes from, because it's I'm always looking for either a way out in case something else happens, or you do pick up on certain characteristics. You said it was a blessing, it can be, but sometimes I also think it's a curse, because sometimes your gut is a beautiful thing and a powerful thing to trust, but sometimes it can be wrong. And there's been certain situations where like I've tried to like trust my gut and be like, I don't feel safe, and it's actually turned out to be the best thing that ever could have happened to me. But I think it goes back to like the whole caveman thing, doesn't it? It's fight or flight kind of thing.
And you've learnt safety. You've learnt how to keep yourself safe. In fact, I've got it on my phone here. There's a part in a book I read, and I actually reposted it the other week because this is so right for us. It's actually Will Smith's book, so just, he's had a bit of a meltdown recently, but these things happen. But the book said this: there's a Buddhist parable that has guided me through many a perilous transition. A man is standing on the banks of a treacherous, raging river. It's rainy season. If he can't get to the other side, he's done. He quickly builds a raft and uses it to safely cross the river. In joyous relief, he high-fives himself, lifts the raft and heads towards the forest. But as he attempts to make his way through the dense tree cover, the raft is banging and knocking into trees and becoming entangled on vines, preventing him from moving forward. He only has one chance for survival. He must leave the raft behind. The vessel that saved his life yesterday is the same one that will kill him today if he does not let it go. So the raft represents our outmoded ideas and old ways of thinking that no longer serve us. For example, the same angry, aggressive persona you cultivated as a child to protect yourself from bullies or predators will now destroy every relationship you have if you are unwilling to let it go. And I was like, that's amazing.
Timely.
Yeah. And I actually just posted it about 3 days ago because I get that. I get there's bits that need to keep us strong, but we need to learn to differentiate. I don't think anyone can tell us how to differentiate that. I think we have to learn that.
You have to get to a stage where, and again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying about like, it doesn't have to be the traumatic events to make us kind of like change. It was actually Holly who taught me that as well, about like holding onto the rope, or she used the analogy of like a hot piece of coal. But the longer you go, like these kind of like coping strategies or people, relationships, like whatever it might be, in your gut when they're not serving you anymore, like something doesn't feel quite right. But we get so caught up in like holding on to things for like nostalgic purposes, or that's our comfort blanket, if you like. But believe me, like that level of stress or that level of unhappiness is not a comfort blanket.
No.
If anything, it's suffocating.
You can feel scared and actually take into consideration what actually is going on around you. Or you can feel scared and it's, it's not bad. And you're thinking, actually, this person does treat me right. I'm not going to bring this into this relationship, or this, it could be anything, family, friends, whatever. Or you can be scared and there's a very valid reason for it and you're ignoring it. So it's just differentiating and finding that, because it is difficult from trauma as a child, because it's been impossible for you to develop as maybe your friend who's got a loving mum and dad. They're very calm. They'll be, they have healthy shouting in the house, whatever. But when it comes to like physical violence and fear, I think it's very difficult for children of that to then develop as everyone else would. Like I noticed my friendship group, they're all engaged, getting married, having kids. And I was divorced before 30 because I got married in Vegas. Like I went off just trying to find this safety. And I mean, I've lived a life. I when I first got diagnosed, I didn't know what was going on. I was a bit panicked that, am I going to die early? And I just remember sitting there with myself and I thought, well, if you do, you've really lived. Like I've done modelling when I was like the little runt of the litter at school. Like no one ever fancied me. I ended up on magazine covers, which I was embarrassed to ever talk about. And now I find it quite funny that I ended up doing that. So I feel like I've come back to me. I'm like, I'm chilled, I'm calm, I'm who I am. I've done beauty pageants in Las Vegas. I've had boyfriends that I had a husband and I'd done all this before I was 30. I just went on one to get all these experiences, and as much as a lot of them have been chaotic, and I did reality TV when all I wanted to do was act. I'd done all these random things. I went to the Ukraine in February, but I've really lived.
Do you know what though? It's so like powerful though, because I have this thing, and like God forbid it ever happens to me, but this is the driving force now behind everything that I do, because I've seen the most incredible, beautiful woman who, my mom, like, have that such a zest for life, like have that completely taken away from her. She's now in a neurological care home. But she's still got that fire. She still gets up every day and has that kind of smile on her face and gives me hell on a daily basis. But it's that like, but what if that was to happen to me? I do not want to get to a stage of my life and think, what if I should have? Like, you posted something recently about like regret. And again, it's like something that, would you rather regret something that you have done or what you haven't done? Because if you have done something, you regret it, you've learned not to do it again.
Yeah.
But you can't sit and be like, oh, well, I learned this from not doing something.
Well, exactly.
It doesn't like you've got to live your life like that, because you don't know.
And I've made some wild mistakes that probably absolutely made it as hard as it has been to keep breaking into the acting world. Like, I had a full scholarship to the top theatre schools in all of London. And then I thought I've effed it all up with the modelling, I've effed it all up with the reality. I thought that was me done. I still managed to pull it back somehow. Because, I have nothing I do comes from a nasty place, because I don't want anyone to feel bad. But now it's not at the detriment of myself. I want me to feel good, and I want other people to feel good. And if other people make me feel bad, I just leave. Yeah. You don't get.
But
to
you
have
also
that
said it
access.
earlier as well. You said like, what's meant to be will never pass you by, or something in that vein.
Yeah.
And you're that in walking form. Because like, yeah, so all these things are like constant setbacks. They're knockbacks. Like, you can view them as obstacles, but there's something incredibly powerful with yourself that I really like. It inspires me, is the fact that you use them as stepping stones. Like this lupus diagnosis, like quite easy. And I imagine there are days that way it really kind of knocks your confidence and like your ability to kind of like get up and have that kind of like outlook. But you've just also sat there and said that you're developing something to help other people understand their diagnosis, or like how to navigate life with it.
Yeah, and in that, it's helping me though. So it's like we're all winning now. But the lupus, it's hard because you don't know. It's not linear. It's so up and down. One day I could think, oh my God, I can do a 5K today. The next day I'll be wiped out for 3 days, and I've only just come out of I had 3 bad days in my stomach, and I just was really struggling to even get off the sofa. The fatigue is horrendous. But I think to myself, everyone's like, don't overdo it on your good days. And I'm like, I'm absolutely going to overdo it on my good days. I'll get everything done as quickly as I can, so that it's done. And also,
do you know me?
Yeah, and I'm going to absolutely get it all done. And also, I enjoy them good days. And if I know, okay, I've had to accept it. It's a hard thing to accept when the doctor says you're not going to be able to live life like you used to. But on the good days, I'm going to. So then I look forward to them. So maybe I've got a couple of crap days. Okay, I'll sit down, watch a couple of films, some nostalgia from the 90s, like Clueless makes me happy. Yeah. And then, but I've never let myself do that. I've never let myself just take that time out. So actually, maybe it's what I needed.
Do you think there's an element of guilt sometimes with this kind of stuff, taking that time? Because I feel it now, like even like we're sat in a product, right, we're having this like incredible conversation on the back of something very traumatic, like heartbreaking, that nearly destroyed me and my family as a whole. But now to be sat here having conversations like this, like as much as like it really fires me up, there is an element of like, I do feel a little bit guilty, because I'm like, well, like this has come at such a cost, but like I could sit in that, and I could sit in that pocket and like not do anything about it or let it eat away at me. But again, it's that kind of little bit of fire. But like, well, I can feel like that.
See, I see it
tomorrow
more
is going to be. Tomorrow I can get back.
Yeah, I see it more as like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Like, I don't think there's a thing to feel guilty about. If there's something bad that's happened and you've been given lemons, you make that lemonade. Like, because not only does it help you get out of that situation, you're number one. You've got to help you, but you're also helping a lot of people. Like, I listened to this podcast. I was listening to one on the way up, actually, with Mark O'Brien.
Yes.
And I thought, what an incredible human. And that inspired me, brought me to tears a couple of times. And that connection of humans feeling for each other, we all need more of that. So whatever went on to inspire this, was for that reason, because now you're touching everyone else and helping other people. And the minute you're doing that, you've made a difference in the world. And the more people make differences in the world, the better life we have. So,
Do you know what I feel? Stop it. I warned you about this. I think when you were on the podcast last time, I'm pretty sure you said something, and I was like, me and Emma both clapped and cheered.
Yeah.
I very nearly did the same thing. Remember, these mics are a lot more sensitive than the ones. So
Yeah, we're clapping to it. Hurt everyone's ears.
I'll save the audiences. To be fair, you talk about like the Phoenix then, and like obviously you're a massive Harry Potter fan.
Oh, yes.
Massive Harry Potter fan.
That's never going to change. I've got Harry Potter bed sheets. I'm 35 years old.
What house would you be in if you were?
So, here's a fun fact. When I was at theatre school, they used to pick up all the kids from theatre school and put us in the background. And I was quite blonde at the time. And I was put in Slytherin. I was raging because I am a Gryffindor through and through. And I did my test. I got given a Harry Potter Wizarding World app. And I did my test. I was a Ravenclaw. But I know my heart of hearts. I've obviously answered the questions wrong or not understood them.
It's a tech thing.
I am Ronald Weasley.
It's exclusive. You heard it here first, everyone.
I'm Ronald Weasley. So I'm a Gryffindor.
Love that. Wait, so you're in Harry Potter?
I've been on the set when it was filming. I met Daniel Radcliffe. I spoke to Daniel Radcliffe. I remember Helena Bonham Carter. I mean, I was about 13, 14, and I was on the back of her scooter going back on. They're taking all the kids back to our holding area, and she like made like a cackle to us and like pretended to be Bellatrix Lestrange still, and I was like, wow.
Something because my chest is getting very light.
I also threw up on the set, so there was some of my sick backstage.
So not only have you been in Harry Potter,
so it was my vomit.
You're sick as. Wait, was it a particular set that you were sick on?
I think I just come off of the Great Hall and I'd come round and I didn't feel very well and I threw up and I was like, oh, I'm really sorry. I'm not very well. They sent me home.
I love the fact
I knew I wasn't very well going in. I just wanted to go in. So I just was like, no, I'm fine.
I imagine it was the excitement. I can't have you on this podcast and not talk about your incredible work that you do for not only for your mom, like, and again, it's something that I really, anyone who does anything for their mom, like I'll save that. But like for the guide dogs, like you're incredible. Like even I saw a post the other day, like you were going on a big long walk and you took your mom's guide dog for a walk.
Yeah, he needs his free runs.
Like how important is that to you? Because obviously I imagine, it might be a bit of a stupid question because I imagine it means a lot, but...
Yeah, no, I think, when mum first went blind, I was 17. So that was a difficult stage anyway. And 6 months previous to that, I was with my 1-year-old nephew who died of meningitis and septicemia and was there with this baby's dead body. So it was like a big... I just got my scholarship into the... the college to do my BA honours at Italia Conti full scholarship, and you can imagine how elated I was. And I think a couple of days after that, my nephew died whilst I was looking after him, so that kind of shot that down. Lost a bit of it didn't really matter anymore.
Yeah.
I was starting to see life a bit differently, and then 6 months later, mum went blind, so I had to end up leaving my course anyway to help look after her. And I just watched her go lower and lower and lower. And I remember one day I left for school, got the train, and when I got back, she was still in the same spot I'd left her because she was too scared to go walk around the house. And that's when I was like, we need to leave school now. And so we started little with Braille classes. I ended up picking up, there's about 3 old, bless their hearts, little old blind ladies around our area. And I had this tiny Ford KA, and I'd squeeze these 3 old ladies in the back, mum in the front, and take us all to Braille classes. And we made friends with them so mum could like learn how to be as a blind person. But then technology started, there's now, the iPhone speaks, so she does all of that. And now she's better than me because I can't work with iPhone, so I have no idea how a phone works. She's like, Jess, can you help me? I'm like, I really can't, but I'll try.
I can do all of this.
But I can't do that. So when my mum got offered her first guide dog, I watched her go from needing me all the time, or, needing someone all the time, to now being able to have that independence slowly creep back. And she would go down to the shops by herself, and she'd go up to Scotland by herself. and she got this confidence back because they're incredible. Like, I've been to the breeding centre a few times, so you watch how the genes are done, you see the puppies, which is obviously lovely, but how they then, I've been to the training centres where they start the training process and what they look for in the guide dogs and how they do it. Like Richard, my mum's guide dog, when he's out on free run, he's a sod. Like, honestly, he was rolling in fox poo. I was like, Richard, get here now. And also, I live in Surrey, so it's a very common name, Richard, around there. So you've got the old middle-class men walking past. Like, oh, can I walk
Richard,
on
stop
now?
rolling in fox shit.
Like, yes, Richard, you carry on, but not this guy. And so that is, it's funny. But when you put the harness on them, it's like they just change. And I think they've trained the dogs to do this, and it's incredible. And the bond they have, it's like my mum's safety blanket, safety net. And it's really lovely. It's really lovely to see. And so I wanted as many people that were partially sighted and blind and in the need of a guide dog to be able to benefit from that. So what can I give back to how much they gave my mum back? So I try and raise awareness. I try and do as many events, like a couple of half marathons, mountains all over the world, just anything I can to raise that. We've lobbied
seen
Parliament.
It firsthand, haven't you? You've seen firsthand, like what you've just literally said is like so phenomenal. The fact that you gave, well, the dog has given your mum like her independence. Like the fact she went up to Scotland, like.
Oh, do you know what my mum's doing right now? She is on a blind sailing trip with Coots Bank. she's on a boat with 2 blind people and 3 sighted people who are the people who look after the blind people on the boat and make everything happen. My mum is sailing for a week.
So,
I know. I know.
And we're sat here in this boiling hot studio.
And she goes blind skiing every year with a company, a charity that's just for people that are partially sighted or blind. I can't remember the name of it now. It's going to come to me.
But your mum is more.
She has more holidays than I do.
Yeah.
I've been away once this year, and it was to the Ukraine to deliver medical aid to all the hospitals for the soldiers. And my mum's been skiing, sailing, holiday with her friends. I got back from the Ukraine the same day as my mum got back from holiday with her friends in Spain. She had a black eye, and I came back unscathed. I said, "What have you done?" She had so much to drink and having such a good time with her friends that she fell over and knocked her eye. And I was like, I had just been in a war zone. And I've come back better. Debbie, you're having too much fun now. We need to rein this in, okay?
No, it's incredible. Honestly, I've got so much respect for it. If there was people listening to this and thought, like, you know what? I've heard a little bit of like what they can do for one person, obviously with the incredible work they do for so many others. How do they get involved? Is it a case of like, is it a donation thing, or can they get involved and do like fundraising like you have?
There's so many different options with the guide dog. So you can do puppy walking just to help out with the charity.
Well, who doesn't want to do that?
I know, right? You can do lodging. So you help to bring them up and socialise them. Obviously, you can do events like I do with the running, the mountain climbing. You can do your own events that you make up. There's so many different ways, but puppy walkers, they're always looking out for, and puppy lodgers, so that you learn to integrate them into society as well. They're always on the lookout for that. But it takes £50,000 to get each guide dog from start to finish, because guide dogs don't just give you the dog and leave you to it. They supply your food, vet bills and everything. So yeah, it's about £50,000 per dog. So they need to keep the funds coming in. So, every little helps. You can sponsor a puppy, and that's cool. You get pup dates, little pictures of your puppy and how he moves on. Brilliant.
So there is literally anyone here who's inspired. Obviously, I'm going to link everything in. So if you do want to donate and obviously help someone out, obviously get involved.
I suggest sponsoring a puppy.
Yeah,
they're very cute.
I know exactly what I'll be doing after this. Jess, I have 3 final questions for you. We talk about coping mechanisms a lot on the show, and music is my biggest one. Like the minute life gets a little bit chaotic, my headphones are in. I'm either going for a walk or I'm just dancing, essentially. And I'm very surprised there isn't one already. But when the time comes and there's a movie of your life,
I'm working on it.
Yes, it will get there. It will get there. I mean, there's a lot of content.
I'm working on a series at the moment, actually. But yeah.
Okay. If you need any extras, I promise you won't be sick.
You're in.
I promise you won't be sick. But yeah, if there was a movie made of your life, what song would be playing when the credits started rolling?
So there's 2. So I don't know that one could be opening, one could be closing.
Oh, okay. I like that.
There's a song called "I Am Woman."
Okay.
I don't know who sings it. I've got it on my phone, so I could probably tell you. It's just really powerful because I think I didn't know how to be a woman a lot of the time. I've been my masculine, I've been my feminine. I couldn't find the balance in between. I've always struggled to be, am I the princess that needs saving, or am I this strong, independent person that doesn't need anyone or anything? And I think I'm just learning to find the mix of the two, where it's the safe, healthy balance. So that was the song for that. The lyrics, I actually always put it on my Instagram post, and I have the little song on, way overuse it, but that's why. But also, Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen by Baz Luhrmann. You know it?
Yes.
It's just, as you get older, it all starts making sense. Like, you'll never understand the beauty or power of your youth until whatever the words are. And it's like, shit, I really didn't respect that until I started getting ill and my hair started falling out. Like, oh. And then, like, don't mess with other people's hearts, and don't other people do that with your heart. And it's like, oh yeah, I get that now.
Oh, okay, that's tugging on the heartstrings.
Yeah, and there's so many just real life lessons, and a lot of the time I always seeked for people to tell me that that's right, just you can carry on, or I didn't trust anything I did without someone. I had to go to my mum, like, oh mum, could I do this? And a lot of the time my mum doesn't have the answers, but people just regurgitate their own past experiences, and whether that be negative or positive, and then try and feed it back to you, even if it hasn't turned out right for them. They try and make it that it is. But no one's ever had the same experience, and no one ever will from their own perspective. So you've got to trust your gut. And I think that when I listened to that, I thought, wow, okay, that makes sense to me now. I don't need to have that someone else to tell me that that's okay. For the first time, I can listen to myself, and I've only just started to get like that. It's only just where I don't have to have someone else's approval to go on with something, because that's led me down the wrong path so many times. When someone's, oh, you should do this because you need to be like this person. Oh, okay, I'll completely transfer my personality and be this crazy model and crazy reality star. Like, no, it's not me, and I've adapted to it and then become that. And then I'm like, no, I'm going off of what I think other people are telling me to be, and I'm not. And now I'm like, okay, I'm getting it now. Finally, the penny's dropped. And that song, the lyrics, since it's not really a song, is it? He speaks it, but it's just, it makes sense to me so much now. And I feel like we could open with I Am Woman, and we could close with Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen.
There is so much in that. I feel like you're going to have to come back for part 3 to like dissect that. That is phenomenal. And you do not need me to tell you this at all, because I feel like there's a real glint in your eye with this, but like, you are more than enough. Like, you are more than enough. I can't imagine it takes a lot for you to get on the dance floor, or it might. I don't know. But what song needs to be playing that is going to guarantee to get you up there?
Well, this might surprise you, because when anyone gets in my car, the new guy I'm kind of dating gets in my car and the music comes on, he's like, didn't expect that. So I'm going to read out my playlist that's always on in my car, because it's probably going to.
I love that you're the first person who's got this. Like, has literally not only brought one song, I brought a playlist.
Oh, playlist for you. Where is my playlist? So, Good Golly Miss Molly by Little Richard.
Respect
Johnny
that.
Be Good, Chuck Berry. Run Around Sue, Dion and the Belmonts. Brown Eyed Girl, Van Morrison. Wagon Wheel by Darius Rucker. Peggy Sue, Buddy Holly. You get the idea.
Yes.
Frank Sinatra. Like, these are my songs. Like, I am in the gym. I'm not listening to doof doof. It does my head in. I'm listening to the sharp. And I'm joggling along. And, I think as we've developed, I think especially during my early 20s, late teens, there was this music that was just degrading women, telling everyone how to have so many bitches and do this and that. And it's disgusting. And then we all went into this area of like being treated like that by men. I certainly did.
I thought it was okay.
I thought it was okay. My heart would be broken all the time. I'd do things I didn't want to do, be with people I didn't want to be with, because I just was listening to this in nightclubs, and it riles people up the wrong way. I do really believe music is so influential into how we behave. And if you're listening to things where you like smack my bitch up, what do you think is going to happen? And it's developing this. I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to romance. I want to listen to these songs that make you feel like a bit cheeky, twist and shout, and and like
there's almost like a feel of
like
nostalgia there, though, isn't there? Like, of like what this got through the people at a certain period of time. That's all they had was that music. They didn't have phones, and they were dancing, and they were But
they went to dances. They got courted. Men would turn up at the door rather than say, "Do you want to come over at 3 a.m.?" No, it was like, hello, Mr. and Mrs. Impiazzi, let me open the door for your daughter and take her to my car. You know, that's how it was. And I missed that. And I think I'm not accepting anything less. And thankfully, I'm not, touch wood, at the minute anyway.
Good.
So it's nice.
That's what I'd like to hear. Okay, final question. Is there a song or an artist, there's no beef on this show, it's all personal opinion, that you like to put in a box, wrap in chains, kick to the bottom of the ocean, never listen to again?
Well, if we go by art, okay, them songs that I was talking about, the ones that are really degrading. So I think Eminem did a lot of things like that. And I know people will hate me for that because I love Eminem, but I think when I was going through severe domestic violence, that was playing a lot around, and I don't think that contributed very well. Okay. So at that era of Eminem, I'm going to tie you up and throw you in a box. And also, well, this is more because of personal life. Like P. Diddy, you're down there, mate. Off you go. Down in your box.
No. Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to kick him down there as well.
Too. Bit of R. Kelly, off you go. Sink to the bottom of the ocean, like the trauma. Like, and again, that era, it's that era that I'm talking about where we were, you know, it's almost like it's pre-grooming us or at a young age to think that this is okay. Like, I grew up watching Disney, so I presumed someone's going to come and save me, and I've only just realised they're not. I've got to save myself. But now Disney films are the princess saves herself. But back in my day, I totally got the Disney disease. I was like, oh, don't worry, you get saved. No, you don't. Just saying, you got to save yourself. And sometimes, you know, there's great people around, and that's who saves me. My friends, my family, the nice people that come into my life. Yeah, they're there, but you've got it in you. And I think, that era of music was grooming us almost to allow these things to happen. And I think when the Me Too movement came along, that's when it was like, right, you're all done now. We're sick of it.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Time's up.
Exactly.
Time's up.
Exactly.
I bloody love you.
I tell you, I had the best time. I love it.
I could literally sit here for hours talking to you. Like, honestly, everything that you say is just, every time it just hits straight to the point, and it's like, it's so relatable and it's so empowering, and I feel it all fired up now. Like, I genuinely could not thank you enough again for joining me for a waffle, and you're gonna have to come back for a part 3.
I'd absolutely love to. I'd come here every week. I had the best time.
And to be fair, speaking of, I didn't know you lived in Surrey till now. At the end of July, I am speaking at Wowfest, which is a wellness festival. I think there are tickets still available if anyone does want to come along. But if you're around on the 19th and 20th of July, I'm so shit at this month.
So up for that.
Let me know. Like, come along and
on record. I mean,
Holly's going to be there. Yeah. Holly's doing the Saturday. I'm doing the Saturday and Sunday. We're taking the Waffle Shop on tour. So yeah, we'd love to see you there. And if there's anyone listening to this who would like to come along, obviously get in touch, and I don't know, all that shy that you have to like and subscribe and shit. But Jess, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure once again. Thank you for joining me for
Thank
Waffle.
you for having me.